Good morning. I'm Jim Jordan, and I am the Gregorian Chant Specialist here at Paraclete Press. And right now we are doing a series of videos on various chant books and resources and trying to open doors for you when it comes to Gregorian chant. And so it may look like a bit of a funny title ahead of this video this morning, but it's really quite on purpose. When it says the Graduale Triplex and Chant Made Simple, Can You Believe It? Gregorian chant is for everyone. And of course, Mary Berry, who was our greatest inspiration to begin this chant page, and the great chant scholar of this past century from Cambridge, England, always ended her chant seminars with this: Gregorian chant is for everyone. You will continue it, yes? And all of us always said, absolutely, Dr. Berry, we will continue it, because it was so important to her in that mission that the door be opened for chant for as many people as possible. And that's one of the aspects of the mission we at Paraclete are working to maintain. That said, what I'm talking to you this morning about is a question that I often get, and that is about what's known as the Graduale Triplex. And this book by Robert Fowles, entitled Chant Made Simple, An Introduction to the Ancient Neumes. Very basically put, this book contains all of the propers for the masses through the year, which are set to chant. So we have introits, we have communions, we have graduals. You're hearing those, many of you, during this time of year, during Lent. I want to just quickly bring one other book into this discussion, and that is this, the Graduale Romanum. And as I was telling Catherine this morning as we were talking about putting this together, this very much comes from this, as they even have the same page numbers. They are the same book, except for some very distinct and crucial differences. But the question I often get is, Jim, why should I get the Triplex as opposed to the Romanum? And I won't even attempt to go into all the various reasons, because both have great value. And so it's not a judgment call based on that. However, this is something that I actually had personal discussions with Bob Fowles about, and that is the joy of further interpretation of the chants by what you find in here, because the Graduale Triplex, if you look here, you'll see big black notes on 4-line staves, and then you'll see what people often call the squiggles above and below. Now those are actually more ancient neumes than those black notes. And they tell us so much about text rhythm within the chant. And again, we'll have other talks when we go to talk about the history and perhaps even the lineage of some of these books, and how they actually show a pathway of the restoration of chant over the past, now coming up 200 years. But suffice it to say, we can discover through this some very, very interesting things about the text. Now, I want to jump to Bob's book, because I want to read something to you quickly about him, because he actually says in here, and I think many of us have experienced this with our scholas. It's just a little paragraph in the opening of the book called My Experience with Chant. He says, being brought up a Presbyterian, a Scottish Huguenot, well, I'm sitting here full-blooded Methodist, I had never heard chant until Gustav Reese, the renowned American musicologist and teacher, played some 78 RPM recordings for us in graduate school. Now, there are going to be some of you who don't know what a 78 is. You'll have to go research that. Hearing the seemingly formless melodies move like a swallow enjoying the summer breezes started a lifelong fascination. Some 30 years later, at my invitation, Dom Jean Clair, chant master at the Abbey of St. Peter de Salem in France, taught chant for a month at California State University in Los Angeles, where I taught for many years. His combination of brilliance, humility, and gentle humor so fascinated the students that one of them, obviously unaware of Catholic protocol, asked if he was an ordinary priest or a saint. I just thought that was delightful and says so much, because chant can speak and does speak to so many people about at so many different levels. But I want to just go over here to this chant, Dominus Dixit ad me. And you'll see that he puts this over here. And we have this. He goes through the chant. Now we find this. Let me pull the triplex up here for a moment. And you'll see the Mass at night, Christmas Eve, going into Christmas Day, the midnight Mass, the introit. The big jubilant introit is saved for one of the daytime Masses. This, much more intimate, where you have this going on. I'll put it over here, of Dominus dixit ad me, filius meus est tu. The Lord said unto my Lord, you are my son, and today I have begotten you. Now, let's look at what Bob actually says. And he talks about this, all this research that we see from Dom Cardine, the prevalence of light notes, reminds us that this text is being spoken by God's newborn Son, and actually by the Lord to him, and therefore should be sung lightly. The notes on Filius, 3 notes, 2 notes, 1 note. This reminds us of the Trinity. This is the only lengthened notes in the entire chant, and this is important. Meus are a token of God's pride in his new Son. And notice that Dominus and Ego are the same person and the same melody. Now, those of you who are choir directors actually don't need me to say the following, but I'm going to anyway. One of the greatest challenges of any choir director and choir is the capturing of the imagination of the music that's drawn from the text. And that is chant. She is the handmaid of the text, but they work as co-equals to make that meaning blossom. This is the value of having a book like this right alongside the Triplex. They're amazing companion volumes. And I would love to talk with any of you much more. I got wonderful questions based on our talk yesterday, which I'll be expounding upon over the coming weeks. Just fascinating questions. And there really is no wrong question to ask, because we're working to open this door so that Gregorian chant really is available to all of us. Thanks again for joining me today, and we'll be in touch again soon. Have a blessed rest of the day. Thank you much. Bye-bye.